What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about debt collection, debt validations, how to do it, what to look for, some of the key things that I see over and over again that are violations from debt collectors who are trying to collect on a debt that they purchased from the original creditor. I'm going to also get into a little bit about with original creditors, but most of this video is going to be about dealing with debt collectors who are trying to collect on old debts, because that's like one of the huge issues that is that most of the viewers on this channel is going through. I see the comments, the views on these type of videos are very high, and it's because people are just really affected by what is going on when they get that debt collection letter in the mail, or that debt collector's call on the phone, and they're like, I don't know what to do. What are my rights? This debt was old, or do I have to pay you, or I thought I had to pay the original creditor. So we're going to deal with it. What I want to show you first is a portfolio. I get these emails all the time from portfolio companies. They want to, I'm on the list, even though I'm not a debt collector. I want to make that clear. I am not a debt collector. This is me like being an insider, getting you information about what's going on. And this is going to benefit 98,546 people. So right here, this is retailers include HSBC, K Jewelers, GE Capital, and Citibank. The principal amount is $207 million. $207 million is what this is, and it's 98,546 people or accounts. Charge off is from 2005 to 2013. I'm going to get into what to do about that in a minute with this, with what we're going to do with the debt collection validation video here. Average balance $2,100. Let me get rid of that. Cancel that. Average balance. I don't know what's going on here. Average balance $2,100, and they're selling this for pennies on the dollar for $25,000. So now let's get. All right, so let's get right into it. Debt validation. If you could do this right, if you do this the right way, you can make most debt collection companies go away. Like, they just won't deal with you. They'll deal with the other people who don't know what I'm about to show you right here. Now, these are, there's always other circumstances that might pertain to your particular debt, but these are the things that are very important to look out for when dealing with debt collectors. So, you need to read over your letter. You need to make sure that if there's something that's not, that I don't go over in here, if you read it, you would be able to probably figure it out, or you can post a comment and then I'll help you figure it out. But these are the things that I see from looking at thousands of debt collection letters that come to clients. And these are the issues that I see with them. And if you can call them out on one or two of these issues, more than likely they're going to go away. They're just going to leave you alone. So let's get into it right here. Let's the first thing that you need to check when you get a letter from a debt collector is you need to check your state statute of limitations. So that goes back into what I just showed you earlier in the video, where the debt was purchased in 2005. It's between 2005 and I think it said 2013. So every state has a statute of limitations. Some states are longer than others. Some states have one for a regular contract. Some states have a different statute of limitations time period for open type accounts or revolving type accounts like credit cards. So you need to know what your statute of limitations is for your state. And you can go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. On my blog, just go to the bottom, click the blog, type in statute of limitations, and you'll see statute of limitations for all 50 states. And you'll see in the first column, it'll be for regular contracts, like it could be for an automobile loan, something that's not going to be able to be paid and then where you can charge again. In the fourth column, you'll see for credit card debt. Pay attention to that because it's very important. And then also, for communications debt, it doesn't matter what state you live in, it's a 2-year statute of limitations. So for your cell phone or your cable bill, anything that's considered a utility by the federal government, that's a 2-year statute of limitations. So you want to make sure that if it's a regular debt, you want to look and see what type of debt it is. If it's an open account, like I just said, a revolving account, that's going to be usually, for most states, a lower statute of limitations. And then if it's a utility debt, that's going to be 2 years federal. So right off the bat, you would be able to stop them by utilizing a statute of limitations cease collection activities letter if your debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. You got to watch out. You can actually have that debt recycled for, have it, I'm sorry, missing the word right now, but you can have that debt where they would start over the statute, the time clock for the statute of limitations if you accidentally sign a contract with them or make a small payment because you get afraid and you just want them to get off your back. So you do that so they don't mess up anything with your employment or whatever it is. You just don't want to go through it. Be very careful, because if you sign that contract or if you make even a $1 payment, any type of payment, you will reset that debt and restart the statute of limitations. Now, the next thing that you want to look at, and this is stuff that we look at here in our office when we're doing debt validations against debt collectors, is that you want to see that communications letter. What happened first? What happened first? Did they send the letter first, or did they contact you, and call you first? This is something that a lot of people don't even know. They are not allowed to call you first. They are not allowed to call you first. That is a violation. They're supposed to send you a letter. It's called a dunning letter. And they're supposed to send that letter first, and then they reach out to call. Now, the reasons why they start to call people now, where they're not afraid, is because people don't know their rights. And also, one person sometimes doesn't want to have the expense of going and getting an attorney to sue the debt collector. They just notice it's a mountain to climb, so they're going to take more risk on doing that. But what they're doing is they're using these skip tracing applications that TransUnion Equifax and Experian are providing, and they're able to find people, and they'll get their phone numbers, they'll get their addresses and everything, and they will just outright go out and just try to call people and just see if they can get that, get a hit on that. But they're supposed to send the letter. So when they send the letter, it makes another potential issue that you need to watch out for. Did they send that letter through a third party? The way that you can see if they sent it through a third party is on that letter, and it has to be a letter. If they send a postcard, they've already violated if they send a postcard, because they've revealed your debt situation to everybody, everyone who touches that piece of mail. But these are the things that we tell people to watch out for. So the reasons why debt collectors will use names like Portfolio or, Capital something, they won't always have collection in there, or they'll have a different name, is because simply by the envelope, by the return address, their name could disclose what that information inside of that envelope is about. That's why they'll have that on there. But if they have a name that doesn't, stand out as a debt collector, we might all know that they're debt collectors just because of what they're doing, but technically they're not disclosing that the letter is about a debt collection. But what you can look here is you look at this meter, and if this looks like it was done by a third party, sometimes it's very hard to detect it. But if it was done by a third party, that is a violation, and they're not able to do that. And so that's like one of your check marks on what you're going to be doing in your letter that you would be responding to that debt collection letter. And just so you know, if you don't respond to their letter, their communication, that letter in 30 days, you are allowing them, it's like you are admitting to the debt in a sense of allowing them to place that on your credit reports. They might place it on one, might place it on two, they might place it on all three. But if you don't respond, that's what you're going to be giving them permission to do. Then it's going to be an issue where you're trying to fight to not have them be able to collect, and also to get that information taken off your credit report. So this is very important. When you get a debt collection letter, you go through this here and you make sure that, number one, not statute of limitations. If it's a regular debt, look at what the statute of limitations is for it. And a utility debt, if it hits in here, if it's right in here, you do not have to do a debt validation on the debt. You just have to do a notification that the debt is past the legal statute of limitations for them to collect. Now, if it's not past the legal statute of limitations for them to collect, now is where you're going to start building your letter based on the information that I'm talking about here. You're going to look for any violations that they may have had where they shared your information with third parties. And that includes the United States Postal Service, or however they got it to you by their name. If they have collections in their name, then that would be something that you can bring up in the letter. And then also, did they call you first, or did they send the letter first? That could be something that you would bring up in the response to their collection letter. Now, let's move on. With the debt validation, you're looking at who is the original creditor. Did you have any disputes with the original creditor? You will notice that in the letter, you will be able to read it in the letter. If you pay attention to those debt collection letters, they will say you have the right to dispute any or part of that debt. Something that they don't clarify in there is that you have a right. See, they're trying to make it like you have a right to dispute it with them on that, which that is what you're going to be doing. But what they don't want you to say is that you have disputes with the original creditor, open disputes with the issues with the account with the original creditor. This will make a problem with the debt collection company, because most of the time, 99.9% of the time, once they buy that portfolio, they cannot go back to the original creditor and say, hey, there were disputes with this account. Can you give me the information on those disputes? They won't be able to do that. So if you have any open disputes, and I've had this with clients where the credit card company just said, we're just done with this. And they had open disputes with the credit card company who sold the debt. They were like going back and forth. They even had emails and mail letters saying, okay, we're reviewing and we're investigating your disputes, but they never came to any resolution on those disputes. So do you have any disputes directly with the original creditor? You can put that inside of your letter too. See, they want you to focus on disputes with them, with the debt that they have in hand, as if they're the ones that gave you the credit for it. No, your disputes are with the original creditor if you had any disputed directly with them. It could be billing issues, it could be crediting issues, it could be issues, the way that they figured your reward. It could be anything. You would craft that inside of your letter in that response for debt validation. The next one is you want to review the debt collector's claim, because they're saying that they took the debt. And if you look at the affidavits, if it ever gets to a lawsuit, they would give you an affidavit, and on that affidavit, it would say that they take full responsibility of the debt. That's what the original creditor says that they end up getting the debt collector. So what you would do is you would say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Debt Collector, I want you to give me the contract that allowed you to be able to contact me over this debt. They're going to say, well, we purchased the debt. Well, I want to see the affidavit. They may not give it to you at that point because it's going to make a problem right off the bat. Your name will not be on that affidavit. Your name will not be on the debt collector's contract with the original creditor's affidavit. It will not be on there. That's going to make a problem already for them. The next thing is you want to see the original contract from the original creditor, and you want to review it. This will be one of the times where you will comb through that original creditor contract because there could be some issues. You may not have signed certain things that they're claiming on what the debt collector is claiming that you did sign for. Next is you're going to want all of the history regarding the account. If they are the owner of the account, even if you didn't have any dispute with the original creditor, you have a right to get all of your account history. If the original creditor was trying to collect on a debt, they were trying to collect on your debt, they would just be like, hey, push a button and get everything over to that individual so they can review it. The debt collector has to do the same thing. They can't just come walking up to you and say, well, here's a bank, an old statement. Here's 2 statements and it has this amount on there. Well, how did it get to that amount? I want you to show me everything. Well, you have a dispute or something that you want? I have a dispute. I have a dispute that these amounts on these 2 statements don't add up to what you're claiming. So get that information over to me. So now let's move forward here. In your debt validation response letter, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to verify that the original creditor never filed a 1099-C. This here will also pay off if they end up trying to sue you in court. This is something that I'm starting to see. Well, it's not that I'm starting to see. I've seen this for years where individuals said, hey, I want to get my home. I need to pay off a debt and so I can get a proof of my home. Or they just say, I just don't want to deal with this debt collector anymore. I want to come to an agreement and get this done and over with. And then all of a sudden they got a 1099-C cancellation of debt from the IRS. And they're like, how can I get this if the debt collector purchased the debt? You don't have any claim on it anymore. You can't file that. These claims, for some reason, can take up to 2 years to get to people. Up to 2 years. So what I've seen is if you make that request in your debt validation, that a lot of debt collection companies will back off because they don't know 100%. They don't know 100% that the original creditor did not do that, or it could be some type of accounting issue where they filed it on some and didn't on others. So they walk a thin line, and they know that most people don't know this stuff, but they walk a very thin line on if an original creditor might make a mistake and send something into the IRS for a 1099-C, and they like, it might happen a year or 2 from now, and they'll just deal with it at that point. But if you challenge that up at the beginning, you can have a debt collector might say, hey, we might back off. The next thing is you want to check for any original creditor class action lawsuits, because you can utilize the information that they have in that debt collector, not the debt collector, the original creditor class action lawsuit. You can utilize that information on the wrongdoing that they either admitted to or that they decided to pay a fine on. You can utilize that information and say that you want to have your information reviewed based off of what was happening with other people that you believe that you're in that category, that you believe. Maybe you even got a postcard. There were individuals who didn't even know that they were in the class action, because the way it works with these class actions is that if you don't respond, you're automatically in the class action, that you never opted out. So if it's a nationwide class action, you could say, I believe that I'm in the class action and that I've never opted out, and that what I see on this class action lawsuit, I experienced that with that account, and that can make the debt collection company back off when you do that debt validation. The next thing is any usury violations. One that comes to mind was one that actually went to a debt collection lawsuit where they were trying to get a judgment against the client. But if that client came to us after they were getting sued in court, but if they would have looked at that before they were getting sued, and they would have had that in their response to that debt collector when they sent the original letter. And this, I see this a lot with payday loans. I've even seen it with some of these online lending companies where they actually break the law. So let me give you some examples of what you need to watch out for with violation. And this is basically the interest rate. That's what this breaks down to be, the interest rates that they're charging. With payday loans, this is how they break the law with charging excessive interest, is that you can look it up in your state. First you're going to have a overall interest rate, and for payday loans, it's extremely high what they let them get away with. But let me show you how payday lenders are getting over and being able to violate the law, and people don't even know about it. If you go in and get a loan, and you look at your state on the laws on this, it varies from state to state. If you go get a loan 1 week, you have to pay on it a week or two later. If you pay on it and then you recycle the loan, or you pay a fee to recycle the loan, where it's like I can't pay it off, so I want to pay the fee that they have, and I want to redo the loan. That could be a violation depending on how many times you do it within a 30-day period. Some states say you can only do it in a 2-month period. Whatever it is, you got to look at your state laws. When I did that for that client, we saw that in their state, and I think this was in Missouri, that they could not do that. As a matter of fact, they said that you could only recycle a loan twice, and I think that they let them do it 3 times. It is not your fault that you don't know that you can't do it 3 times. They're the ones who get licensed to do the payday loans, and if they break the rules, then that's on them. This debt, it was $4,500 for that violation, and they ended up getting that lawsuit dismissed with prejudice. That ended up happening. So now let's move down. Signature issue. You want to make sure that when they give you the documents from the original creditor, that you want to see if it has a digital signature or written signature. I see this a lot with auto loans. I don't know why they're doing this, but there was one where on a news report they showed that the auto lender, the auto sales shop, they were financing cars, and then they would send another contract to the finance company. It was a different one than the one that was actually signed by the customer at the auto dealership. I know you might be thinking that that's crazy, but it has happened. I've even seen this with some of the online lending services where the digital contract was not even signed. So what do they have in their hands if you did not even digitally sign the contract, and if you were in front with a dealer, they don't have a written one. You have a written one. Maybe you can find it, maybe you can't, but looking at what they have, you're going to review it. Where is my signature? How do we even have this? And then that would bring up, and this is what happened with this lawsuit with the auto dealers, is that they found out that the original contract that they signed and the one that was sent to the dealer, even where it was signed, was a whole nother contract. The terms were changed in there. The reasons why the terms were changed is because the auto dealer knew that the underwriter would not accept the terms that they negotiated with the client at the store, at the dealership. So they got them their deal. The payment was going to stay the same, but the terms were different. And this was a huge issue with Santander. This was a huge issue with American Credit Acceptance, where people were paying on their cars 36 months, 60 months, and it's like, my car isn't even paid off. That's because they were changing the contracts. When they got to the underwriter, it was different than what the people had signed for. So you would be able to utilize that information if you see any discrepancies. Even if it doesn't have your signature, you can request, give me the digital signature, which would have the timestamps, that information, or give me the one with the written signature. Make them provide that. When you're dealing with a debt collector, these are things that they don't want you to ask, and they're going to be like, this is going to be tough. We don't want to deal with tough ones. If we can buy 98,000 accounts and we have one account that's asking for all of this stuff, wouldn't it be easier to just let that one account go and we go after the other 98,000 something people? That's what I'm giving you a gift right here on the thinking of how debt collectors are going to be thinking. They're going to like, why fight this when we can go after 98,000 other people who don't know this stuff? So let's move forward to the next one. So now, with doing your debt validation, the next thing is the privacy disclosures with the collector. Now, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I'm going to go into more detail. You want them to give you some type of document that allows them to have access to your private information. Now, this, if you're being sued by a debt collector, this is something that I always tell my clients to do when they're writing their court summons response. But when you're doing your debt validation, you can ask them, give me a document that allows you access to my private information. They don't expect you to do that. They don't expect you to do that in your debt validation. They just expect you to talk about the debt. So this simple thing right here can make them back off, because they will not be able to get any information other than the couple of statements, and they have the portfolio. But the problem with the affidavit of the portfolio, it doesn't specifically have your name on it. It doesn't specifically have your name on it. The next thing is any violations in the past by the collector. This is one that I see a lot of people not even think about, is that, has that debt collector ever been in trouble for things in the past when trying to collect from people? You never know. So you should always look that up. You may find out something that you didn't know. Yeah, I put a little note to myself. You may find something out that you didn't even know that was a violation. Let me give you an example. This happened to one of my clients. Is that one of the major credit card companies, I'm not going to mention their name because I don't want to get the video disabled, is one of the major credit card providers in the United States uses religion to collect on debt. And what I mean by that is they utilize people that are from other countries. What they'll do, like, there's people from other countries that in the United States, and what they will do is they will want, when they know the nationality of that individual, and what they will do is they will get someone that's of their nationality to put pressure on them to take care of that debt. And I'm a witness to this, and they will use words from their religion to get them to pay on that debt. Now, some of you might think that that's okay. I don't think that it's okay. And I'm a witness to that happening. And I can tell you, the individual client that it happened to, he was very upset. And to show you how that type of exchange can play on an individual is that he did not even, when they utilized this technique on him, he did not really worry about the debt. He worried about his moral obligation. And I said, I want you to worry about your moral obligation, but you do have rights, and you should also utilize your rights. Like, rather than, he was like, I just want to work out something. I was like, well, let's stay focused on working out something and not be so focused on how this individual is attacking you religiously on this debt, because it really did do, it took him, it took him down a level on the way he was thinking about himself. And but I don't agree with it. Some people might agree with it, with that regardless with your religion, you got to take care of those obligations. I say, if it harms you, which this individual was harmed financially by something that was totally out of his control, it is within his rights to try to work out some type of deal. And that's what we ended up being able to do for him, is that we worked out a deal. So when you're crafting your letter, what I want you to do is I want you to, review this here. I want you to look at the letter that you got from the debt collector and utilize the points that I just went over right here. And remember, everybody's situation a little bit different. So you might have to, think about what they're stating in the letter, and then kind of craft your response to that also. Again, if it's a statute of limitations issue, you do not need to do a debt validation. Now, I have something for you. If you have debt collectors coming after you, below this video or above this video, you will see a link where you can get a debt validation letter. If you need a more detailed one, I have one that's a paid one for $29.95. These are crafted by me. These are not templates put together by somebody else or found on the internet. This is stuff that we use here at thecreditrepairshop.com. So if you have debt collectors coming after you, grab those letters. It has statute of limitation, cease and desist, and a debt validation letter. You might have to go back and forth with the debt collector depending on what response they come back with when you send out the letter. They might say, we're going to cease collections, or they might say, have a question, and then you need to go back and forth with them. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab those and get your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. It's Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.